Hello, hello. Someone's just put a comment that's made me laugh already, so we're off to a good start. Um, Hello, people, and welcome to Follow a Passion. My name's Karen, and we're joined by the usual four of us. So let's get started in talking about this Watford game because there's a lot to talk about, there's a lot of talking points to debunk, and there's a lot of things to talk about in general. So who wants to go first? Initial thoughts? Go on, lads.
Yeah, man. Like I think I kind of put a post out where I was like a little 1-0 to the Arsenal, a little bit of trope, but that wasn't a 1-0. We left goals on that pitch. Like that was absolutely our best sustained pressure performance of the whole season, and I'm just so upset that we didn't have the goals in the score line to make it match. But from a pure sustaining pressure, from purely controlling the game, it was our best controlled performance. I think structurally it was one of our best games. And yeah, mate, like I was so happy. I feel like the ref was awful both ways. Like I never want to comment on refereeing decisions, but just in general, this guy was just horrendous the entire game. For any kind of push, we would get a yellow card, and then he just wasn't consistent. And it was Watford tried to do. I think Ranieri thought he was back in 2015, where you just try to kick us, and and kind of hope play act a little bit, waste a little bit of time, and he thought that would, with a low block, would basically get him the win. But it was so good to see, man. And like, I mean, you guys at the stadium, it just saw through the screen that there is something happening here with this team. There is something happening in terms of just that connection between, I think, our fan base and the players. Because I don't know. Mikel's made mention of it that the players are kind of excited to play at the Emirates again, and it shows through the screen. I mean, Oba even missing his penalty, and we'll get into a poor performance on the night, one that he'll want to forget individually. But the idea that this guy missed the penalty, and then just a couple minutes later, the fans are just giving all their support to him. Man, it was just so nice to see. And yeah, man, it was a good day. You get you got some pessimistic views on this run where some people said 5 points and we ended up with 10. Now we're in fifth, 10 unbeaten, and you're looking forward to the next couple fixtures. And look, guys, I don't think people are realizing, but we have people missing from our spine. I don't know if people can actually see this. Last season, we weren't playing this way, regardless of whether you want to attribute it to a mentality shift, whether you want to attribute it to a squad quality increase. The idea that Nuno Tavares could come in and us not miss Kieran Tierney was not something that we could do. The idea that Ainsley Maitland-Niles and, even Lakunga, those two quality could come in and replace Xhaka and Thomas Partey, and we still control games. That was non-existent last year. So I really think that something's clicked with this squad. Just in general, the application has been absolutely immense. The pressures have been really great, and we've been controlling space far more than we did last season. So yeah, man, big up the performance, because I really think we've got something special. And in this game, there was a couple changes tactically I felt that we went back to, which was just nice to see, because Lakunga didn't perform like he did against Palace and Brighton, where our buildup was a lot more similar to those initial phases than it was the last couple times where we went kind of 2-4-4. So we did see a little bit of return to kind of old principles with three at the back and that 3-2-5. And yeah, man, like to see that and us not skip a beat, it's just awesome.
Good. Z, go for it, mate.
Yeah, look, honestly, it was a good game. I feel like just coming back on Twitter, just looking at the views after the game, I was a bit overwhelmed. I was like, because people were saying that it wasn't a deserved performance, or like we didn't play good. And to be fair, it seems like a echo chamber, because I feel like, you know what, we actually had a very good performance. We deserved to score at least 2 to 3 goals, and it should have been 4-0, but on the day it was just a matter of patience. I remember messaging Corin at halftime, and I was like, "Bro, this is frustrating," and he was like, "It's cool. We have 70% possession." And as soon as he said 70% possession, I went on Google and I checked. I was like, "Wow, we've actually controlled the game," and despite it being frustrating, and we weren't 1-0 up or 2-0 up. It showed that we had the game under control, and then we scored very soon after the second half started. So, like, it just goes to show you, right? There are some games we're not going to start fast. We're not going to score in the first half, but we have it under control. And to be fair, it looked like we were never going to concede either. So it's just a matter of when we would have scored. And ultimately, Emil Smith Rowe, who I take my L, guys, I take my L on that. He came and scored, and I feel like he's the guy. He's the guy to like the go-to guy for goals at the moment. So yeah, like it was a really good performance, and yeah, I feel like once Emil Smith Rowe scored, the stadium went crazy. Like the atmosphere was abnormal. Like you don't really get that kind of atmosphere in games like this against like a Watford but it was just really crazy, and I feel like we need to continue that momentum going going forward. I just can't wait to even go to the game against Newcastle just purely based on the atmosphere. So yeah, overall, like great game, honestly.
It's okay.
Yeah, the game. Or before I go into the game, I want to say thank you for 700 subs and thank you for all the messages over the weekend. And yeah, I'm good. On the game, I think the Watford fans are probably the worst fans that I've seen away at the Emirates this whole season. Like Wimbledon, the Palace fans were probably the best, or the Wimbledon fans, but Watford fans were by far the worst. And yesterday, if not for Ben Foster great performance, I think we score 4, maybe 5. I do think we started fast though, because we did score in that 6 minutes and it was disallowed. And I think if you do get that goal, the game completely changes because it forces both teams to change their game plan because Watford have to come out and try to get a goal back. I think overall I was pleased with the performance. I don't really check my phone until far after the game's gone because of the narratives, but I think Ainsley was incredible and my man of the match. I think for him to show, because we keep saying this, he did worse than what Guendouzi, even Ozil. Ozil did bad, but Ozil did it like hiding. He hid what he did, but Ainsley added Arsenal and left it on 24 hours on his whole story against the club, and he still come back and is performing well week in, week out. I think he just shows that, and it shows a change in Mikel for allowing the player to come back and redeem himself in a sort of way. I think Ben White was incredible again, stepping into midfield, breaking lines with his passes. I think this was probably Ramsdale's worst game, even though it wasn't bad. But it was the first time he made a mistake, and that was because he got overconfident and should have left. Should have let White take the ball instead of him coming out. I think Tomiyasu was great indoors and silenced Dennis. And then Gabriel did well versus Sarr, who was silent throughout the game.
Well, Sarr switched sides. He didn't really have enough joy that he switched sides from Tavares as well. And
I think started coming central.
Yeah, I think those three, Tavares, Ben White, and Ainsley, probably deserve their own sections from us because I think Tavares, there's an interesting performance there. Ben White, his best performance in an Arsenal shirt, that he just keeps going up. Like this trajectory of this guy is going mad. And the only reason I made Ainsley my man of the match slightly above was that miscommunication with Ramsdale, who I partly do. I think that Ainsley had a more consistent 90 minutes. But look, Ainsley deserves his own section because we're going to have a conversation about AFCON and basically our midfield and where this guy fits, because I really feel that this game smashed a lot of narratives, guys. Like when you look at the whole picture right now, we've sustained pressure for the first time this season over the course of 90 minutes. We did it with people out of our spine in terms of, Gabriel and not Gabriel, sorry, in terms of Partey, Xhaka. And, I just think that when you look at this midfield, even though that they were up against Kuka and, Sissoko, who just aren't, the greatest athletic midfielders in the world, it shows that we weren't able to collapse because we've seen this before, right? Like we were against some athletic outlets. Ismail Assar, Joshua King, Yao Pedro came on, I think, in the 65th minute. These were athletic outlets that we have been troubled against. And a huge reason why we were able to sustain this pressure was the press from Ben White. And, this guy's ability to basically hold that high line, smack and pressure these forwards up, and basically close off the lane from these forwards to run into was a huge reason why we were able to sustain pressure. Because while Ainsley and Lokonga were really, really good in midfield, we did struggle a little bit in progression. And, Ben would consistently smack people from behind, just like we had seen in preseason with a little snapshot. But then he'd carry the ball into midfield and release basically the press. Because what Watford did was they went into this mid block and low block, right? And they tried to basically stave the middle. And Ben essentially carried through the lines and would just drop off. And that left Tomiyasu, who was really good, not just in duels, but releasing Saka. I think there was in the 20th minute, there was a little clip ball that Tomiyasu did to release Saka over the top. And it was beautiful. It really was. And, I really think that we left a lot of goals on the pitch in terms of creativity. I think there's a little bit of a narrative going around that, Arsenal just shoot or take poor quality shots and we're not creating stuff. Look, I think we're starting to sustain pressure. And while you might see that in the very short term of us creating a lot of shots but poor opportunities, this is going to change, especially when you start sustaining pressure like we are doing. And yeah, I really think Ainsley, we're going to do a whole section on him, right, Curran? Because that guy was crazy all game.
I mean, before we get into Ainsley, because that's the next thing I was actually going to say, but I'm just going to give some. There's things that have been pissing me off on the timeline, and we just need to talk about this. So people have been saying, I don't understand, because I don't really look at Twitter till I get home the game, but I looked through when I got home, and I heard people saying, "Oh, they got lucky today." Oh yeah, for sure they got lucky today. The XG was 1.56 to let me get it up. 1.56 to 0.45, and they had 0.77 because of the penalty that they missed. Yeah, so it was 0.79 to 0.45, and it was kind of just a lucky performance. Okay, so XG doesn't take into account offside goals. So there's a couple of chances gone missing. We had 14 shots, 6 on target. There's another set of statistics. We had 70% possession in the first half and 61 overall. So when you look at those stats, you see that one, if you just look off stats, you need to watch the game as well. Just going off stats isn't going to do anything. You need to watch the game as well, because when you actually watch the game, you'll notice that one, the only chance that Watford had was that in that last minute or two with Ramsdale and Ben White having that miscommunication we'll get into, and I can't remember who it was, but the Watford player put it into the side netting. I don't think Ramsdale had anything to do. Was it Josh King? Thank you. Ramsdale had literally nothing to do. I don't think he had anything to do. There was a couple of long shots that he just gathered up nicely and got us on our way again. We also had to talk about this. What I liked about this performance this week was that even though the 3-2-5 was working and we were doing well with it, Mikel saw that there was an opportunity to really push them back and switch to the 2-4-4 that's been working so well. And when you do that and you push an extra player forward, you push their block back a bit as well. You're not just it means that you're sustaining pressure a bit more in their own half. So it's all well and good saying that, okay, it was a lucky performance, but then you're not watching the games. You're not watching the games if you think that's a lucky performance, because I'm telling you, George has already said it today. We've left, I think, 4 goals on the pitch at least. I can count them. So I think this was a thumping. We're going to get into Watford's dirty tactics as well, because they were bozos. I'm not going to lie to you. That is a championship team. I don't care what anyone says. And Watford is my local team. I have a soft spot for Watford. This is me saying it. I quite like Watford. They're my local Premier League team, and I don't even see any potential in them at all. Like, they have a lot of gaps. They have a lot of things. We'll get into it, but it's the fact that he came with a 4 at the back and thought, okay, cool, I'm going to go mid block. I don't know. Mid block against Arsenal right now is suicide. I don't care what anyone says.
Well, mate, do you know what the transition is? And so, like, it'll probably be a good transition of the game and kind of what we saw. But teams last season used to go into a low block because they would essentially say, okay, Arsenal, here, you guys make a mistake and we're going to pounce on it. We don't trust you in build up, right? And what the issue has been is if you give Arsenal time to build up this season, we will kill you. And
Yeah.
so what teams are having to do right now is they can't sit in their low block, because
Left
if you
and
give
mid
us, yeah, they have to play a mid block, and it pushes their line up a little bit high. Now, what does this do? It's because our structure's been so good and our build-up players have been so consistent in finding the out ball that essentially, if you go into a low block, you will be penned in. We have an opportunity to increase our creativity with Tomiyasu. We have players at the back and Ben White to draw players out. And so that low block becomes a stupidity, because we will create chances and we will break you down. There is no issue with that. And so that transition to this season has probably been the greatest thing for us, because that's when people start to respect you. That's when you have to say, okay, we have to step up. Otherwise, we're going to get killed. This is half of the transition to a big boy team. And, the reason I say that is because we all said technical security in the back line is probably part A of helping us to sustain pressure and get better chance creation. We've all said that. Now, when you start to add transition control to this, then things start to get a little bit interesting. We just need to have a couple more final third operators that know what to do in the crucial moments in order to convert these half iffy chances into a multitude of very high quality chances. And that for me is just getting a little bit more composure and a little bit more authority in the final action, because I feel as though that we're getting into these half chances quite regularly now. And we finally have a structure that, people know what to do. The positional rotation from everybody in this game was immense. It was something that really calmed me, because again, I drew comparisons to this build-up structure to Palace and Brighton. Everyone remembers the infamous Thomas Partey Island, right? When you look
Yeah.
at kind of this 3-1-6, and with having people remember Lukunga, we had him drop into the back three, and he wasn't as effective. In this game, we had Ainsley performing that role, and he was man of the match at it. And we basically had Lukunga in the middle, but that was by design, guys, because look, Lukunga is somebody that's new, inexperienced, and I don't think he recognizes the positional awareness quite as good right now, because when you're looking at him, he seems like a player that can receive very good on the half turn, but he doesn't know when to penetrate and when to recycle the ball. And so what you have to do is you put him in the middle with options, he'll thrive. But if you put him kind of isolated back on the wing, where you basically limit his passing angles by constantly going on the inside,
Because one side is blocked. So yes.
Exactly. And the issue why Ainsley is better at that is because Ainsley is a more confident ball carrier. Ainsley has a bigger kind of technical and passing range, and so for him, he was just so good at both counter pressing. I think he was our top counter presser in midfield, along with Tomiyasu, ESR. But in addition to that, he was able to wriggle out of scenarios, nip the ball, and then release people in the final thirds. For example, Lacazette, I can't remember what minute, it was very early on, but Ainsley wins the ball high up in midfield and releases Laka, I think, for our goal at the beginning, actually, the build up to that goal.
Passed the Oba, and he took a bad touch.
Exactly, but
I'm gonna let you finish, but I just want to say on the rotations, we were so good at getting the rotations off ball. I don't think I've seen a better game from us getting rotations off the ball than this one. We were so good at drawing men out of position, and because I don't know if you were going to say that, but I wanted to make sure I got that out, because if you look at us off the ball, I think EBL's done a very good post on it as well. If you look at some of our structures off the ball and actually look at the way that we're actually drawing defenders out of position. I saw it too, CK. Don't worry. If you draw people out of position in that way, then you can create space in behind, and we were doing that with much better.
But you know what, Kern, mate, like I push back on this because we've been attempting this for so long. Like this structure isn't new; it's purely a quality increase.
But we're achieving it now. Yeah, we're achieving it now. This is my thing.
Without our best midfielders.
Yeah, but the issue has been we finally took a step up. Like I want to make a delineation because we've done this 3-2-5 in Palace and Brighton and it didn't work. Like why did it not work as soon as 4 weeks ago, but now here we're seeing it working? Well, you've got a lot more intensity off the ball from everybody. There's a lot more commitment in general in terms of closing the space, right? And then after that, when you look at some of the positional rotation, you basically have Ainsley Maitland-Niles, who has switched roles with Lukunga, and I think that's been the key tactical difference because Lukunga was doing the Ainsley role at Brighton and Palace as opposed to the central role. And that is because, again, I don't think that Lukunga has the positional awareness, and his ability in isolation out wide has always been something that we questioned. So in this game, he was a lot more composed, but he didn't have to be isolated, and he didn't basically telegraph his passes. And that was the key difference. We've still maintained our 3-2-5. Basically, when you look at that video with, I guess, EBL and other people, guys, we've had this buildup of a 3-2-5 with basically our midfield offering combinations on the side for the entire time. Like, this has been a constant structure, and we'll transition.
Since Bournemouth. It's been since Bournemouth, literally.
And
like the first game.
We'll transition to the 2-3-5 in the final third, but like, we've done this, but what is the difference between those past performances when it didn't work and this one? I purely believe it's been intensity off the ball. And I think everybody from across the pitch, whether it's Ben White stepping up and making sure to close that high line very quick, whether it's Ainley stepping up into midfield and making sure to close the space just as quick. Guys, there was a concerted effort in this game that every time we lost the ball, everybody went behind within 10 seconds. I don't know if anybody else saw that, but for me,
it was quite visible.
And it was absolutely because of Watford's pace on transitions. Like, you saw the logic for it, but I hadn't seen anybody crash the box. Like, as a coach, what we talk about is you crash into a low block, and our speed in doing that wasn't as quick in the first couple games. And so really what we're starting to see is buy-in from everybody. And even if you have your top striker having a really, really poor game, this, I think, is the point. In a horrible game, if you have your midfield and your defensive blocks able to tighten up, be very quick off the ball, close the space, that press can be used as an ability to create chances as opposed to just relying on your final action. So that's what we've been doing really, really well in these last couple of games, is that, sure, like, we're looking for final third efficiency, but our press has been immense. I think Gabriel really helps with his disguised passes. We no longer need to throw people down on that side because we fear of the progression. Because Gabriel didn't have great distribution, but now it's been so much improved that we don't necessarily need Ainsley to drop in and constantly help out progress, or somebody in that role. You know, we have a little bit more variability in how we attack. And I think that's the key thing. This idea that everybody is on the same page, and, everybody is moving towards a better collective press, between Oba, between Laka, between Ainsley, Ben White stepping up, Tavares, Tomiyasu, who, by the way, was so smart with, where he was filling in zones, like his ability to understand now when to stay wide, when to attack centrally. That, I think, was something he was struggling with between Brighton and Palace, but it was very, very evident here that he was back to his best. It was one of his better performances. So, look, I was just so happy from the overall structure and the fact that we could return back to something that was making us look outnumbered in midfield to suddenly looking like we had a lot of players behind the ball. Like, I think that is really what was annoying me, our compactness between Brighton and Palace. I never thought that the formation was necessarily 100% the issue. I thought it was part of it. Ainsley was a lot closer to Lukonga, both in this game and they have been, right? The pivots have been a lot closer, but beyond that, it was just our willingness to stay compact wasn't the case. And look, guys, we've seen this case in point, Liverpool versus West Ham. You see when you have probably a very good structure and individual quality, but if you're not compact, you're going to get ripped apart. So, yeah, mate, I was just so happy because I think this is sustainable. When you basically look at the patterns and quality, that's one argument. But if you look at how we're playing right now, a lot of these things are able to be replicated. And I think there's no better place to start than basically Ainsley in terms of the individual performances. Because I don't know about you guys, but man of the match by a mile.
Yeah, not even close.
Well, not by a mile. Very close with Ben. I'll be clear. But
you were him and Ben, before, because I want to get everyone's thoughts on Ainsley, and I'm going to give mine as well. But I want to just make one point that I just noticed from the game itself. So what I noticed is that we don't need a lot of, because you remember in the summer that the argument was, oh, we're losing David Luiz, Xhaka's out now. How are we going to progress the ball? We haven't got those pass masters. And look, the fact of the matter is you don't need long ball progression if you have runners and you have progressors in. I would say it this way: you need one in your midfield and you need one in your defense. So in our case, it's Ben White, and it's at the moment it's Lukonga, or it could be Ainsley as well because Ainsley was dropping deep. None of them were going in the back three, but Ainsley was the one taking the ball and recycling it. So you have two runners in this case, or you can have one passer, one runner, or you can have two passers. I don't really care. It's a bit weird having two passers because of the pace of the ball, and you're going to have to find runners, and maybe your long ball efficiency won't be as high. But the fact of the matter is when you have progressors in your midfield and in your defense, then you should be not really worrying about who's going to spray passes everywhere. Not everyone needs to be Andrea Pirlo. Not everyone needs to be Granit Xhaka. You need to be adaptable in your midfield profile. So
the tough thing is, Curran, mate,
yeah.
like when you look at these teams, we've already talked about how they can't go low block, but the reason they have to go mid block and they can't press us high is because of Ramsdale now. Like you have dual threat essentially, where Ben White will stop this low block from being feasible, right? His constant pressure from behind is going to stop that from being the case. But then you've got Ramsdale who's going to stop a high press. And so teams are left in this weird state where they have to do a mid block. And that is the reason why we're seeing so much joy in space, because any team and any coach really that is forced into a mid block is going to leave spaces, is going to leave space for people to run onto. And again, it makes people fearful. And this is why I was so adamant about transition control and final third technical security. Those are the special things to get your sustained pressure and your holy grail. And Ramsdale, while having an okay-ish game, he is the one that basically lets teams not stay off of us, but stay in a mid block, whereas Ben White is a big reason why they can't retreat to a low block, because Ben will eat up any kind of long outlet. And along with Gabriel, they're forcing this really cool physical and technical complementary pair. Like Gabriel's the bruiser. He'll hit everybody, give it off to Ben, who will just go and progress the ball.
Exactly, yeah.
And then Ben will sit there and kind of help Tomiyasu if he does bomb on, and he's very quick across the ground. Like we highlighted this in his, in his analysis, this idea that he wasn't good in duels was crazy. Like Ben White's one of his greater superpowers beyond progressing into midfield was his horizontal agility covering the right half space. He's very, very good at it.
People never listen to Twitter clip scouting. Okay, one clip of him going to ground against Rashford is not how to evaluate Ben White. Okay, if one clip is how you evaluate a player, it's just, I don't know what to say to you. But on coming off that point, so it's a great point about Ramsdale. It's a great point because the thing is, if you have someone that has the ability to push teams back because they're afraid of that transitional threat off the midline, off the central line, if you, for example, an Aubameyang or someone runs it behind, you can play that Edison assist type pass. It's crucial because you're pushing teams back, and then Ben White and your midfield rotations are pulling teams forward. And this is the next point I was going to make. So my thing is, and both CK and George and Z will know this, is the main reason I think a pivot works now in the Premier League, not in world football, in the Premier League it'll work because of the security you have when you box out. When you box your midfield and you have two players that are high up and have two players in your central in your last line, and if you're out of possession or if you're pushing up, you have two men to control transition if you lose the ball. That's the main reason why it's good to have an extra man in your second line of defense or third line of defense after your midfield. So if you want to look at it and you want to look at how we're going to be looking to progress and recycle the ball, we have that security to be a bit more free now. We have the security behind to be, you can say, in the final third, if we lose the ball, it's not unless obviously a situation like Palace can occur and individual errors can occur, but barring that, you have a situation where you have men and you can overload from central, and you're not looking like you're going to be out of possession for long because you can just attack the ball and win the ball back. So it was very evident this game that you had midfielders out of their position in the Watford midfield because they were being strung along out of possession, and you had big gaps. CK, I don't know, because I was high up, I don't know if you saw it, man, but like there was a lot of gaps in that midfield zone for the likes of Lokonga, Ainsley, Tomiyasu when he came in. What are your thoughts on that, man?
Yeah, Lokonga had license to drive that Ben White was probably using more than him and then laying off the Saka, who was going 1v1 against Rose a lot, which made me happy because I thought any winger with anything about him being allowed to go 1v1 with Rose will get the better of him, and I thought Saka would do that, and he did. I thought he was incredible in the first half with the goal, even though it didn't count, like getting in behind Rose, going 1v1. There was one time, I think, maybe 40 minutes in, Tomiyasu played him a first-time pass, and he took one touch, and it just went around Rose, and I was so happy with him. I thought that was incredible. I thought Saka, that's probably his best performance so far,
this
apart
season.
from Spurs. Apart from maybe Spurs, that those two are his best performances this season, and it comes from the consistency of playing on the right wing, because he's played probably left wing more than right wing this season, but like he was incredible, and I thought he deserved the goal, and even though he didn't get it, he got some sort of recognition. I think Odegaard, when he came on, was very good and better than what he's been. It's probably his best cameo so far. I think he provided something, a bit more assertiveness, impetus, and like something different than he's shown before, with an overlap using his right foot. He almost scored if Oba never touched it. So I think he was very good. I think Ainsley, because I never really touched him, I think Ainsley was great indoors and like calming down the midfield. He was the one who put his foot on the ball, because I think out of everyone who played in the midfield area, Laka was probably the worst. He looked like he gassed early, but Ainsley, I think he very much helped us to calm down and work in transition and on the ball. I think he was deserving man of the match, and again, exemplary of the fact that you can come back into the team. But
I think what made his role so good, Chris, though, is like when you look at it, Lukonga was supposed to be the progressor, like in the setup. When we set up, right, and we look at that build-up of that 3-2-6 or that 3-1-6 that people are saying, which it isn't. It's a 3-2-5. You know, Ainsley drops into the left back, but that centerpiece is the main progressor. That's the theory behind it. But again, Lukonga was composed. I wouldn't say that, you know, he just lacked ability, but, you know, he was definitely more reserved, and he let Ben basically be that progressor up the pitch, which is fine. But Ainsley had to do two roles in that sense, which was very, very tough, because Ainsley not only had to put his foot on the ball, but he had to initiate the counter press. Like that Ainsley role, however you want to describe it, is very much a balancer to whoever's in the middle. And he has to offer basically all the dirty work, but allow Nuno Tavares to stay high and wide, or KT or our left back. And so it's a very difficult role to do. And I just thought he was everywhere, Ainsley. And, you know,
and it was for me yesterday, like it was not weird, but like after the game, I even said this to Karen and Z, but like I was like, Partey wasn't here. We didn't miss Partey off the ball.
No.
We missed his progressive passes and his own 14 pass that he fires into a Saka, Laka, Oba all game. That's what we missed from Lukonga rather than the off the ball, because I think he was very good off the ball.
We attacked down the sides a lot more, and I think it was because we missed that. That's the only way that we missed Partey, in my opinion, because, you know, Ben White took over that central drive, but again, he only drives and he would lay it off wide, and so it was very tough to attack centrally. But that's maybe one thing that Odegaard did add, you know, to be fair to him. You know, I've been very harsh on Odegaard, but I think, like, you know, his cameo, he was very good. The one thing I will say, he was in a ton of space, guys. Like, when you look at that cameo, if you give that boy space, he will hurt you. He will hurt you.
That's why I wasn't impressed with Laka, because he had the same space and he didn't do much with it. But
no, and Odegaard was a lot more. You're right. Like, he was authoritative in what he did, but he was technically secure. The only thing is that midfield is so poor. He was against Kuka essentially, because Sissoko was on the opposite side, and he never had that physical battle, right? So for me, it becomes about replicating this kind of performance a lot more often, because regardless of, you know, his idea that, you know, he had really good technical security, he found people out wide very quick. He was decisive, you know, in the final third, something I don't think he's always done. We need that consistency. Again, this for me was his best performance since West Ham. And, you know, you finally saw that. Why I liked it is because you saw it higher up the pitch. And again, it was against a midfield that wasn't pressuring him. Right?
And Kuka did have Kuka, and by the time he came on, they both had yellow cards. Kuka and
they did.
Minute or something. But he was
They
still
both
very
did
good.
have yellows, mate, but it was, you know what, I think it was a little bit more. I just found him in acres of space. Guys, even like his goal, he was 10 yards away from a player before he attacked Sissoko. Like when we're talking about him on the overlap, he receives in the box and there's no one near him. Like 0 people. It really is quite poor. And so for me, it just is a matter. I was just really impressed with his off the ball work. Look, I know Odegaard in space. He's got time. He will kill you. Like I know this. No one I
Yeah.
think ever
Most
doubts
pros.
that.
Most
pros.
Most pros will. But one thing I will say about Odegaard quickly is, I was impressed with his ability to conduct the press when he was ready to come on. He was pulling Tomiyasu into place. He was pulling Saka into place, and he was orchestrating it pretty well. And we needed that. He was very good. I will say this: I don't think Odegaard's a starter going forward. I think he will be a someone that starts
He's
time
a
to time.
finisher,
But I
though,
think
mate. Like
he's
I
a
don't think
finisher.
that's
This
a.
is
I
what
don't
I'm
think
saying.
that's.
He has been every
Literally.
game. Arteta brings him on to calm down the midfield and keep the ball.
Yep.
And
But
we
That's
need
exactly
it.
what I was
We
going
need
to say.
it every game.
But can we start placing importance on that? Like I know I rinse my my comment a lot, but like this idea that we have finishers and changing the game plan is going to become absolutely huge, you know, in the future for us. It's going to be key to us controlling the games. And so for me, I've only ever wanted Odegaard to be a more authoritative in his play. And what I mean by that is, you know, there was a couple opportunities in my opinion that we were stretching them, and I don't feel that we released that through ball quick enough, you know. He did switch play really nice to Nuno Tavares one time, but I just feel that he can release the ball a lot quicker, and he has the vision. What I think really annoys me is he's got one of the best visions and final balls in the squad. He does, but you know he doesn't release the ball quick enough for me. And sure, you can coach that in, and you know you can try, but you know at 23, I just want him, if he's going to be a starter, to start being a lot more quick in those things, because off the ball, I think there was a big uptick in terms of his intensity, which I don't think was there in the last couple of games. You know, he avoided the physical challenge. And look, when we have wind in our sail, Odegaard's a great guy to have in possession, right? I think it was worth of his cameo. But beyond that, I just don't know if he's somebody for like an Anfield. Like when you start talking about those things, he's definitely a great squad player, but does he fit somebody that's going to run in midfield to the same degree? I don't know. You know, I think if we're not going to have the ball, it's going to be a very difficult game to incorporate him in. And while Laka was poor, I just feel that Odegaard probably deserves a start if we're going to go on meritocracy, you know, and we're looking at that. But I think he might have a very difficult game because he's not dynamic enough to burst past players. He really requires that space and time, and he requires options.
He needs a run. He needs a start. He needs a start to get going. And the one thing I will say about him, when you give him 20 minutes or 25 minutes at the end of the game, you can really say, you could see even yesterday he was on the overlap, and I haven't seen that from him. And I was like, okay, with 25 minutes, you can overlap. Good. We need that because when we're leading games, you need to.
Do you guys
to have
actually
that ability.
believe that he overlapped well enough, though? So
yeah,
like for me,
I think he did okay.
I push back on it because, in my opinion, in the middle third, he stayed wide in build up, and when we were in the final third, I don't think I ever saw him overlap. It was Saka that was holding the width for me. I don't know. Maybe you guys saw something different.
I mean, because I was on that side. I was on that side and high up, and there were times where Saka would hold the width, and then he would drift in, and then Erdegaard would give him an option. It happened a couple of times. I don't think it was many times, but it was happening. I don't think, maybe not good enough, but to actually see it happen on a few occasions, I haven't seen it at all. So
there's improvement.
I think it was just maybe impetus to use the space more, and I think he attacked space more than normal.
He did.
That's why I think he did that. He attacked that right half space and space in the box a lot more than normal, which is what we need because they gave us the space. And why him coming off the bench has been useful because generally when you come on in the 70th minute, you won't have the intensity of someone pressing you that you would from the first minute. And him and Martinelli coming on has helped us because like the past couple games, because Martinelli, we needed legs in the front line. A lot of legs because everybody in the front line leg were gone. Oba, Smith Rowe, Saka, even Laka. And we needed someone to bring the legs. And Martinelli, even though I thought the sub was a bit late, I think the subs all season have been
Much
incredible.
improved. Like he's getting a better feel for when to introduce certain things. But I think the big thing with Martinelli is I just love that he took it to the corner. Like that's such a mature
Him and
thing to
Odegaard,
do.
yeah.
Yeah, like I mean,
And then
he could have gone through. I'll compare
scored.
him versus Tavares, where if you put Tavares in a similar scenario, that guy's
Gave it to
going.
Foster.
Yeah, he's
He had the same scenario though, like the
he did
95th minute,
he
and he
did.
gave it to Foster.
Exactly. And he'll go, but like what I just loved, and look, this will win brownie points for Mikel about maturity in terms of your performances. And I guess also Ainsley, the first thing that guy did, he goes to the corner. And so I just felt like that's been the difference for me, where a lot of these guys are showing just shoots of maturity. And I think the biggest key lesson that I could make overall about Watford right now and that game was our fringe players emulated the starting lineup. I don't think we've had that enough last season. A
We
big
didn't.
reason, I know, maybe I'm being a little bit nice, but we just didn't have it. And that's the reason, guys, between us dropping points and us not, us making that close game into a tie, even though that we were very, very dominant. You know, this game is maybe not the best example, but in games gone by when we've had to use fringe players, they aren't playing with this maturity. And I really think it's because the squad is really understanding now when these rotations are happening. Like it's becoming a lot more robotic. And I think the one thing I really liked about maybe that EPL video and other videos, you could see the players rotating without thinking about it. I feel like before, even Tomiyasu and some of our new signings, they were like, okay, where do I have to be at this point in time? And it was becoming a little bit more, I'm thinking about where to be as opposed to just being there. And I just loved how fluid the build-up became. And I think that's going to become a lot better when we
It will.
It's just practice. It's time and practicing getting to know each
The
other.
more they play with each other, like they've been playing the same 11 like week in week.
It's the first time in 3 years that we've had the same back four.
Yeah, if Tierney wasn't injured, it would be like 8 games in a row.
Yeah,
the exact same back four. But because Tavares came in, but it's been the same team, and I love that the injuries haven't been noticed, because last season, especially at the end in the big games, because we needed in the Villarreal is the biggest one, where you had your Tierney injury. Like Smith Rowe had to play false 9, even though he didn't have to, but that's why he played. Like it was very hard to replicate the same dynamics as soon as Tierney, let alone Partey, but Tierney got injured. The dynamics of the team had to change, because you'd either lose your right wing in Saka or lose the left back in Tierney. But now Tavares has replicated that to a point where some people are saying he should start over him, which is...
And even Ainsley off the ball, we're not missing Thomas Partey's impact off the ball. And so
it's testament to the recruitment, because 8 mil is nothing for them.
No, yeah, and it's that. I think there's two big lessons that I'm really drawing from this squad overall, right? And it's like, look, we've improved quality in the starting 11, even though people doubted it. That was just factually what we've done. So you're gonna improve our build up, right? And like these things are gonna be nice to see. But I think the biggest things that I've noticed realistically is our substitutes and our fringe players are impacting to the point that we don't miss our starting 11. That is huge. That's not something that we've had before. Secondly, Mikel is getting better at his substitutions. I find he's controlling game states
I want to get to that.
He's being proactive. You look at Palace, our substitute to add Lacazette and Martinelli, that won us a point. You basically look at this game in terms of controlling our possession late in the game. Even at Leicester, you look to get the same impact from Odegaard with that sub about adding possession. And so you're seeing a manager grow, in my opinion, with a lot of these decisions. And I just think that if you start to sprinkle a little bit of talent into this squad, namely final third experts, because right now what we're seeing is we're able to progress the ball up the pitch. We don't have a problem with that. In fact, teams are so scared of that, they don't go into a low block because they know we won't make a mistake. They're forced into a mid block. They can't press us because Ramsdale and our progression has been so good with people at the back. So they're in this weird in-between. The only thing that we really need right now, guys, is individual quality in the final third. We need people in the final third that are operating at a high level, that are making good decisions consistently, because right now, I just think that we're becoming robotic in a sense, and that's a little ironic coming from me. But if you know, you know. And it's because I just think that this team's rotations, they're becoming instinct. They're not becoming thought of, and that's the evolution.
That's
I
what we
think.
need though, because that's where
Is
you don't get.
this
That's why you
comment?
don't get the overthinking, and it becomes second nature, and then you see the players flourishing without any something holding them back. Because last, I know it's been like 11 games, but last season, Emil doesn't score that goal because he doesn't come inside to the edge of the box, knowing where White will go and the ball will end up. Like last season, that goal doesn't come, but it did take a moment of brilliance or two. White going past two players and then getting tackled, and then Emil.
But you know what, Chris? You know what the
Most
difference
likely to
is?
score.
That's us forcing the issue, as opposed to individual brilliance from last season where we would collect second balls and it would maybe lead to a situation. White makes his own luck by driving at that defense. White is, the initiator of that. And look, Emil's in the right place, right time, but he's been doing these new third man runs that I've been getting very excited about. Look, everyone on the panel knows that.
Since Brentford.
Yeah, since Brentford. And, for me, he's always shot a lot more since preseason, but we always felt that he is going to be a center midfielder. And the reason is because he's going to become a goal-scoring threat. That's 3 goals now. He's got 6 goal and assist contributions, 3 in a row.
3 in a row, 4 in total, and 2 assists.
Yeah.
And he himself is growing in stature. And for me, I just need a little bit extra in the final third to really turn these if chances into certainties. And, that's a testament, I think, to the coaching.
Yeah,
and I will say that because you don't get this level of consistency. I don't care what people. It's really ironic for me. They demand we need to wait for consistency, and we've gone 10 games unbeaten. I'm like, make it make sense. But anyways, I think.
Yeah, I hate that though. I really don't like the consistent. Like what? That's 13 games.
We've been consistent since Boxing Day of last year.
We have
Facts.
and the whole of 2021.
Appreciate it, Ryan. Before I want to move on to, there's a couple of things. So one's I want to talk about the timing of the substitutions and the quality of substitutions, which we briefly mentioned, and I want to talk about Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang as well because he did have a tough time, but for me personally, especially in that second half, there was a couple of times where he had a very tough day in terms of in front of goal. Let's be real. And I'm not going to say obviously he's the offside goal, the penalty. He didn't look sharp in front of it. But in terms of hold up and build up play, I really liked what I saw. There was a couple of aerial duels that he was winning. He was involved in the build up. Obviously, I'm not going to say he's man of the match or he had a great performance. No, he missed a penalty and he shouldn't be on penalties. It should be Lacazette or Ainsley if either on the pitch. And if it's not one of them, for God's sake, give it to Emil, for God's sake, or just someone. I'm not sure
the pens are going to be taken from him. I think
it should be for me.
More. This is a managerial
can't
thing.
Take it. He has to give it away. I think.
Yeah, it has to be from him because again, this is a managerial decision. Now, if I'm the manager, I would never put him on pens personally because I feel he has a good record, but he's not great. I think if Lacazette is on the pitch, there's a certain level of who's first and who's not, right? If Lacazette's on the pitch, he's my top penalty taker. He's been a penalty taker that's been phenomenal.
But I'm sure he said in the interview that if Aubameyang doesn't want to take it, then he can obviously change.
But yeah, but that's if Aubameyang doesn't want. Because if Seyaté goes in the changing room and tells him Lacazette's taking penalties, you're telling Aubameyang you don't trust him anymore.
Yeah. So knowing Aubameyang, I feel like he's the next penalty we probably will get is probably going to be taken by Aubameyang. I don't think he's going to shy away from that. To be fair,
he shouldn't.
And he shouldn't. I'm okay with it. Look, I don't think he should have been on penalties from the start. I would have had my penalty takers from the beginning of the season. Look, Oba, you're on it unless Oba's on or Lacazette's on the pitch with you, then he's first. And then essentially, Ainsley would be third in my list after that, if you really need it, because that guy is very, very good on penalties. But again, I think this is where you have to toe the line between manager and head coach. A head coach would tell Aubameyang, you're off pens. A manager would say, mate, if you want them, you will continue to be my guy. And I just think that faith is going to be repaid. Again, when you've got Aubameyang smiling because he's missed a ball, I think he's just, it frustrates fans. But guys, I love that. I'm not going to lie, because he's had the confidence to do bicycle kicks 2 times in 3 games right now. there's something coming. He
Yeah,
needs
he did it
a
versus Watford, I
special.
remember.
Yeah, he just needs a special goal because off the ball, this guy has been immense, and his technique was really, really poor at the beginning of the half. But did you guys notice towards the second half, Ramsdale was finding him in the middle? And
Ramsdale made a conscious decision after everyone in the front line gassed out because his
to
ball
fire
over
it
the
to him.
top. His ball over the top wasn't going to do anything.
I haven't seen
So
Alba
Oba
leap
started
like that in a
coming short.
while.
Oba started coming short, and it was perfect to him. And I think the fans also responded well to Oba missing, because I think in the past it would have started being groans and just complaints, but it became encouragement, and then his intensity off the ball still
Yeah,
remained.
that's purely because usually when Aubameyang, when he misses, he's not really involved in the game. Yesterday was one of the games where he was actually involved in the game. He was involved in the build up. He was linking up play as well. And Ramsdale did very well to actually find him from the goal kick. But Aubameyang actually made something out of it, and he was doing. And I think he actually linked up with Emil Smith Rowe at one point where we almost even created a chance. So it's something that Aubameyang didn't have last season, and our fans rightly so praised him for it. And I feel like there are some games where he's not going to score. Honestly, he's not going to score. But if he continues on linking up play like that, look, that's also a good asset to have whilst we still have him start for us.
And you know what it is, mate? Like when he missed, did you guys notice how much he was pressing to get the ball back afterwards?
Yeah.
And that was a response to the fans singing his name. Like, guys, these are the intangibles that you couldn't get the season before last, where you're looking at COVID and the impact. Like for me, these are intangible off the pitch additions that we're connecting with the squad. Like the squad is responding to what we're giving them, and I think we're slowly starting to develop. And I wanted to pose the question to you guys before maybe we do questions to the audience. But what do you guys feel is the level of commitment from the fans at this point at the Emirates? Because for me, and I don't want to wish cast because maybe I like our team a lot,
amazing,
but
man.
I feel that the Emirates hasn't been this consistently loud and backing the team in a while. There's a lot of likable characters.
It was a
in
cauldron.
This squad. Yeah,
it was
I haven't seen that.
Man. It was ridiculous.
For me,
go on, Fonseca.
I've been to every game since Crystal Palace, so Palace, Villa, Leeds, and then Watford, and I went to a game before that. But them 4 games, even though I think the atmosphere has been incredible every game, but I think surprisingly Watford was even the best, even though it was very good.
No, it wasn't.
I think certain players are just loved regardless of what they do. So Lacazette always gets a great noise whenever he comes out and stuff like that. But I think the Palace game was very good because Palace fans are incredible wherever they go. So it was just bouncing off one another. I think Villa was probably the best just because of how the game went and how we dominated the team. And I say Watford was the worst. Thinking about Watford fans were probably the worst because their team was dominated and they just didn't really cheer their team, so they lost. But I think the fans were incredible, especially having Ben Foster in front of you making all them saves is very disheartening.
Have you guys noticed the new buzzword has gone from trust the process to unity? And it's been echoed by Josh Kroenke in terms of his interview. It's been echoed by Kroenke.
You do on purpose.
I do.
Why?
But
this is what
you essentially have got him, Mikel, and the players. Have you noticed even Aubameyang and these people in the post-match interviews? People are talking. We have to be united together. Again, I feel as though we've taken that next step in the process. The first year about trust the process was just understanding what it means to be an Arsenal player again. Now I think everybody knows a lot of the changes at Colney in terms of putting up the past figureheads. There was a great interview with Amy Lawrence that essentially talked with Mikel, and he was a huge driver of incorporating these past legends within the makeup of Colney's. And we've changed our whole view, by the way, to City 2.0 in a sense. And it's just the players getting that arrogance again, in my opinion. I think we've play acted being a big club last year, but we're actually finally starting to take those steps this season. How many times have the players rushed the ref? How many times, have we forced the issue in terms of our own play? I really believe that we're starting to become a big club again. These results aren't fluke, and I just think that the sustained pressure that is increasing right now is huge, and we're due a big performance. I am very much see that we're due a 5-0. We are. This
To be
squad is
fair,
ready
right?
to
Say
execute.
it again. No. Say it again.
Crow and
No.
Oak.
Oh.
No. What?
I know it's cronky. Relax, comments. I know.
I
I'm
agree
doing
more.
it to tease.
I agree. It is worse than your promise.
But what do you guys make of essentially what we want to do coming into the future? Because I think for me, we've kind of waxed lyrical about the performance at Watford and in general. We talked about individual performances, but for me, going forward, we're approaching January. Shaka's back training, cough, cough, who a lot of us on here, this guy. Yeah, we have said the timeline, and I would look for United for those that maybe if you didn't catch our opinions on the injury, but United was our prediction. We're looking pretty good for that.
And on Xhaka, what annoyed me over the weekend was Ranieri. And then Sky saying,
yes,
"Oh, we should have put the ball out," because Xhaka's injury happened before the Spurs goal, and they didn't put the ball out, and there was nothing said. So
Nothing.
how can the same? Because it was on the same broadcasting, so it was on Sky on both games, and the same people, Gary Neville, all these guys, said that we should have put the ball out, even though he went down and then White got tackled.
Well,
And
it was Jamie Radknapp, wasn't it? I watched it back. It was
he
Jamie
defended.
Radknapp.
He defended, I think, didn't he?
No, he said
Jamie-
No, he went against us.
There was somebody that was saying it. Maybe it was actually Ian Wright, to be
Yeah,
fair.
Ian Wright was the guy who like
and Tim Sherwood. Yeah.
Yeah.
There was that segment, but he was basically, which is facts, he got back to his feet. Like, by the time that the ball was back in, there was 2 phases of play before the injury,
No.
right? And so the thing
No,
that annoyed me was...
I don't agree with that. I don't agree that we should have put the ball out.
And-
Honestly, there were so many times.
No, Danny Rose shouldn't have done that. I don't know why he did.
There were so many times in the game, George, where they were doing the most to our players, right? And these Watford players were kicking the ball away. They're doing the most so that we couldn't get the ball. They were wasting time. Even Foster was like taking like 10, 12 seconds on the ball. Like they were doing the most to get something out of the game. And for us to even take a moment and not even give the ball. But I feel like we've done the right thing. I feel like we should do that more often because I feel like we're too nice to teams. And and the worst part is the fact that okay, fair enough, we are nice to other teams, but it's just the fact that there's no reciprocation. Like I feel like sometimes it's double standards. For example, like the example CK said about Spurs, when Xhaka got injured. That's true, and I can't even remember that. You know why? Because no one even mentioned it.
Yeah, that's how things are remembered by the media, repeating it. I don't think we should have put the ball out. Rose put the ball out, yeah. Should we have? Maybe
Look,
not.
Chris,
But for me, I'm happy they played on because it showed that. Because he got up straight away. It wasn't like staying down.
19 fouls, for God's sake. 19 fouls.
And you know what's worse, Corinne? No
Against
one
them.
even mentioned that Danny Rose should have got sent off. Because
Twice.
that was
the
GBH.
foul on Lacazette was stupidity.
That was disgusting.
But look, I think the criticism should go to Kevin Friend. He lost control of the game in the first 10 minutes when he basically gave our players a yellow card for a push. Lukunga, that was the most ridiculous yellow card, I'm not going to lie, that I've seen. And then basically they allowed Watford to continue to kick us. And so we said, you know what, screw it. So we're going to be nasty. And you know what, I love that. I'm with you, Chris.
Finally.
Yeah, like we've been too nice. Is it bad? Cool. Call me an ass. I don't really care. But at the end of the day, we are turning into a side. This is what I mean about a big team, and I think us rushing the ref, us not doing these things, we're becoming a little bit of bastards, and I like it. I like that. That's what really, I think, takes you up a level when you start to accept that you're not going to fall prey to the ref's decision. You're going to influence things. And I think that's what all big teams do. Again, Kevin Friend was horrendous all game, but I don't want to blame the ref. I kind of wanted to mention it, but
he was Watford's friend. He wasn't ours.
He wasn't.
He wasn't you. I don't even think he was Watford's friend because
he was poor in Watford as well.
They weren't even happy.
I'm almost sure he didn't even want to give the penalty as well.
He didn't.
He didn't.
He took time. He didn't give it straight away.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know, man. I don't know what this referee was on. I thought we had a very good record on this referee as well.
We do.
Let me just say one thing. Let me just say one thing.
Yeah. Win percentage before the game.
So 19 fouls committed, 6 fouls against us, 4 yellow cards for us, 2 against them. Bro, Tavares did a flip in the air.
That's what
And
got the red.
That's to get a red. Like come on, guy. Like, it was exactly Mush. He was Kevin
No,
Enemy.
no. Stop.
He
Stop.
was Kevin Enemy. I don't care. No. He's right here. He's right. So let him have it.
So, guys, I
Yeah.
got a question for you, just to kind of, wrap it up. I guess in the end, it was 1-0, so all our predictions, we were kind of off, but we got the W. So, I don't know,
Let me
Chris,
show
do
the
you want to?
table then.
Yeah, do you want to pop up the updated table?
So it was this, I think.
Yeah.
Correct.
And so now we're up there, which is very, very decent. We love to see that. And I think the big thing, though, guys, is when you're looking at this game, we've got Liverpool coming up after the break. We've got, Newcastle. What do you guys think Granit Xhaka's return does to our January transfer window? Because I got into a big kind of Twitter beef with some pretty decent profile, like personalities on Twitter last night, where essentially I said with Granit Xhaka returning back from injury, and in addition to the emergence of Ainsley Maitland-Niles, is that pivot DM as much of a fear with AFCON as we really think it is? Especially if we can start to churn out performances like we have in this game, where we basically play fringe players but still manage to sustain pressure and keep our principles. So I think that a final third player, an operator, is far more important, because all season we've lacked an ability to be efficient in the final third. We've never got an issue taking the ball from the back to the front. We just haven't. And so that's not been an issue. And while I want a DM, I want a Thomas Partey partner, I don't find it as urgent of a need, especially with Xhaka coming back and essentially with Ainsley emerging as an option in midfield with Lokonga, who's been okay. So I think there's more options in that area than there are in terms of a final third operator. So for me, I really think that Aouar's the play. Like, I don't know what you guys wanted. I kind of wanted to see what your thoughts were. Where, don't get me wrong, we need a pivot DM, we need a final third, but in terms of who is the most urgent need, I would argue, what happens if Emile gets injured? Do we have somebody that replicates that dynamism?
That's a good point.
No.
That's like, for me, if I'm being honest.
If Xhaka gets injured, Ainsley can go in there. We've seen it. If Lokonga gets injured,
I think what's more important is the availability. To be fair, like, obviously we could obviously in January we could look for a striker, we could look for a winger, we could look for every single position. But it's just the fact is if you want to recruit in January, you have to pay that extra, big bucks, basically that extra 10-15 million. And if Hossaman was available, we're not going to get him for the 23 million pounds that he was available for earlier on in the summer. So if we have to pay 30-35 million, and if he's willing to come, then look, I feel like he would be the best available player for us and for our needs at this moment of time. Because yes, I feel like if Emile Smith Rowe gets injured or he needs a rest, we don't have a player that can fulfill his role to his standard. And I feel like, yes, in the midfield, I feel like if someone like Xhaka was injured and the emergence of Ainsley or Lokonga didn't happen, then I would have been very, very worried. But just looking at how much they've improved in recent times, and how many games is Partey going to miss? 2, 3?
I think 4. If he goes all the way in January, he'll end up missing 4.
Yeah, they're not going to go all the way, but go ahead, bro.
So for me, there's shouts of Aouar to Tottenham. Cool. I don't know about that. I think that he's
not with Conte available. I'll tell you right now. Conte.
Yeah, I don't. That's what I was going to say.
Back three, there's no way.
So it doesn't work with Hussam there. I mean, my whole thing was, I think, because I've always wanted a DM, and everyone knows who my DM is, and and Boubacar Kamara is available on a pre-contract from January onwards. So I think if we're gonna move on to someone like Kamara, it's gonna be a pre-contract. And when you're going to have a pre-contract and you can bring him in the summer, you can then talk about your options in the summer and going forward. But Hussam has to be the main priority for me. I think someone, as we were mentioning earlier, we have progression from 3 levels of our team. You have from the goalkeeper, you have from the back line, and you have it in the midfield. Now we need someone to affect our final third efficiency, and I'm going to maintain this again: efficiency, not chance creation. We need efficiency now. We need players that are going to ball
Make the
strikers,
right
people
decisions in
make
the
the right
final third
decisions.
consistently. Like, we don't have
Exactly.
that. And, as much as I would love cover, and again, like, I want a DM, but again, I think most people know who my choice is. I think we go huge in the summer for that center mid. I don't want to have a stopgap.
If
in
it
my
happens,
opinion.
then
Well,
fair.
for me in Jan, because I always thought I've always been calling Xhaka Mr. Durable, and
Exactly.
the one time he gets injured is a contact injury. So in general, like Xhaka, well, I don't expect Xhaka to get injured at all. And when he's here, he's going to play and play with party, especially with the seniority. If you bring another 21, 22-year-old in midfield, I've always thought our or a left winger was the play. I never really wanted what's it called,
Like a
Kamara.
deep midfielder. Yeah.
I never wanted a DM in January because I never thought he'd get to play just because Jack will be back by then and will be with Party. So for me, it would be our to be signed in January, but because in midfield we have Elneny, Lokonga, Party, Xhaka, um, Ainsley, I think we'll be fine, especially because those players don't generally get injured. Like, people are calling Party injury prone, and even though he got injured the last game, like he hasn't been injured apart from that contact injury from Loftus Cheek. So for me, it's just I know not a deep line playmaker.
No,
But
it doesn't make sense, Chris, to me either, because when you start to look at it, people keep saying, well, what happens if so and so gets injured? You know that the risk for that is only January. Like, he's coming
yeah,
back, and you have all those options. Like, people that say, I'm sorry, but El Neni is still part of the squad, and unless
Yeah.
somebody offers him money, okay, we have
No, I think
options.
El Neni will go. I think El Neni will go. But like, just to add to your point, George, I think what people forget what the January transfer window is for. It's not to add depth to your squad, because that's what you're meant to do in the summer transfer window. Essentially, the January transfer window is the window where you kind of elevate your team, or you add that extra, like that position where it will take you from the fifth position to the fourth position. Because last season, when we bought someone like Odegaard, it actually helped us immensely in the season, and I feel like that's what we need to do. And if we bring in an attacking player, which I feel like we haven't done under Arteta at all, besides Odegaard, I feel like that's something we do need to address. And
million.
so, but like I said, I feel like we're still interested in someone like Kamara. But if we're able to get him in a pre-contract for summer, then look, that's good. But 100%, I agree with George. I feel like we need to get a attacking player just so that we can have that extra push for that top four.
And quickly though, the biggest what if for injury is by far a mill. It's just
Exactly.
It just is by far a mill. Even Xhaka, Party, we have adequate replacements there. Like, no one in the team can replace what apart from maybe Saka, but then you lose what Saka does in the right.
That's what I said. That's what I said earlier. Like, I mean, if people are telling me about what ifs. Look, I understand it's not the quality, but you have an option in Lokonga to replace Thomas Partey. You have an option in Granit Xhaka to replace him with Ainsley Maitland-Niles. Do we have an option to replace Emile Smith-Rowe in this team? Whether it's off the left, off the center, the dynamism and carrying the ball. Do we have a second person like that? I don't think we do. And so when you start to add even a Saka injury, Chris, like, let's say there is a Saka injury, in order to really
-1.
Yeah, in order to do that, by the way, we need Emile in the center so that he can overlap Pepe, right? Who's going to be on the left? If you get a Saka injury, you're not going to solve that with a Kamara. So for me, it's got to the point where whatever question that you ask, Aouar can provide a solution to that answer. Even if you were to ask him, could you play the Burnley role with Odegaard? Of course he is. He's way more made for that role than other players in our team. In terms of replicating Emile, Saka, any of these guys that we don't have people that can replicate that in the squad, then it becomes really clear to me that you have to choose this guy, because ultimately there's squad space. And I don't know about you guys, but look at the squad right now. Willian out left a hole. I'm not talking about quality, but just factually.
From the start of the season, I knew that we needed to not replace it, like get a backup to either get a backup to ESR or someone who can do what he does. So someone who can play left wing or 10.
Because Odegaard was in.
Lovely
Like, people
goals.
forget, Odegaard was in last season, and we had Willian. Willian, in theory, was the ESR number 10 backup or a left wing
Yeah.
playmaker, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
We don't have that. We don't have that in the squad. And so we basically bought the Partey injury.
We thought William leaving indicated that the fact that Hosam Al would come in, but obviously that didn't happen. But look, so I feel like in January, if we address that, honestly, it'll be really, really good for us.
It will, and it future-proofs this squad. I've always said, even if I don't like a 3, everyone knows that. We've managed to convert Curran to the dark side. But, I mean, like, in terms of offering versatility, there's no better man on the market. And by the way, if you were to go with 3 and Emil is your attacking 8, what does your partner have to be, Chris? I mean, if he's going to be on the right side, he's got to be a more defensive 8 that has the ability to push up.
Progress as well.
So in a perfect 3, okay, you normally have your one free 8, that's your attacker, right?
Yeah.
And then to balance it, you have your lone DM, but somebody that's a little bit more defensive. You look at the best 3s in the world. What does Barella offer in that midfield as compared to somebody else in those 3s?
Brozovic, etc.
Liverpool. You need a balancer, an all-rounder in a 3 to balance your free 8 and your lone DM. Awar does that. Like, we have our free 8 in Emil, even if we wanted to go that way. I don't want to, but if we did, we don't have the balancer towards it, So it just makes sense for me, man. And it's getting to the point where I think with AFCON going, Balogun will also get a chance. I've said this for a while.
Martinelli will get a chance.
Martinelli will get a chance.
He's going to step up because it's 3 games, 3 or 4. It's City, Spurs, and Burnley.
Yeah.
In January.
Yeah, and again, the one thing that I've always said, though, is Awar will remove this necessity for a striker for fans. I see it. It essentially is we need another decision maker in that final third to carry the efficiency. And then once you get that, our strikers will score a lot more goals. And I think he solves 2 things with 1 punch, in a sense, 2 problems at the same time. And, he's definitely something with me. And, I've never felt that story was closed. And, of course, it's lovely to get links when you draw out those big Twitter personalities. I didn't even try to do that with, FK. And there's clear interest from Arsenal. Like, there definitely is in Awar. And I don't think that story is ever closed. But for me, the biggest thing is an Emil injury, just to tie it up. Like, the biggest thing. I can make arguments because I love this guy, but ultimately I'm a pragmatist. Everyone knows that. How do I replicate Emil's loss or even Saka's loss?
There are 2 biggest injuries because we already got the backups to Partey and
Xhaka.
Yeah.
Would you take anyone from the youth like Salah to come into the team?
No, not yet.
Not Salah, no, because he's had a year out.
And Surgeon too. Like, these guys are all there still. He's injured, by the way, still. But
yeah, he is.
The other attacking midfielders that are available, we don't have. And by the way,
even Ben Koch was injured.
Look, I'm not a fan, but guys, we have Charlie Patino. In theory, if you really had a deep-lying playmaker need, guys, you have one of the best youngsters that are at it.
You hear the turning deep-lying playmaker. You really don't like it, do you?
I hate it. I hate it so much. I'm sorry, guys. We'll have a debate where hopefully we can get some high-profile guys that are willing to debate us on it. Because for me, it's just a philosophy
what about this,
thing,
George? Because for me, I think
he's positive.
It was positive hearing. Is it Crowley or Cowley? Whatever his name
Cowley.
is.
Danny
Crowley. It was positive hearing what he's doing with him in training because he's teaching him controlled aggression and transition control, which is a necessity for his game because it was one of the main things he lacked off the ball. So we needed it. So
but also he's trusted him more too, mate. Like, he's made the last 3 starting 11 lineups a lot more. So I think I have no issues. Again, Dan was responsible for Emil's prominence at Huddersfield. So, like, this idea that he didn't play, I just really push back because fans,
he's injured.
He was injured, but also they're armchair fans, Chris. Like, let's be real. If he's not starting, games, they're like he's been doing shit. For me, this idea that Aziz would transition to men's football, and by the way, Portsmouth is men's football, right? Like you've got you don't just get given the starting berth. So he was learning a lot of off the ball issues, which by the way he has. I'm sorry, like people, Aziz did have off the ball issues, so I'm happy. He's shown his pedigree in developing Emil, so I trust him. I think it's fine to keep him there. But yeah, maybe make sure in the comments, guys, we'll maybe take questions for another 5 or 10 minutes or so if you do have. Make sure you put the question mark as well, just so that we know if it is a real question. Do you guys want to take the Asensio links and make it quick?
Nonsense. We get them every year. We get either Asensio or Isco every single year.
Yeah.
I just want Isco to move already so we don't have to do this anymore because it's been a while.
Cacaret, look, guys, I love him, but he's more of an all-rounder in a beta version to Barella,
And
I
he's
call
young.
it. And he's very, very young. And again, Emil Smith-Rowe is going to be our free 8, and he's best off the right there. So even in a midfield 3, even if I'm playing devil's advocate there, he doesn't really fit with Cacaret. Cacaret plays a lot better off the right than he does on the left. And yeah, essentially, Aouar again, he's much better in profile because he's an all-rounder that's on the left. And if you're going to do that, you need to balance Emil.
For me, on this, no.
No.
Yaya's one of the best midfielders of all time, guys.
Top 5 ever. For
Ever.
Me.
Yaya is
No.
crazy level. And they're not even the similar players.
Yeah, they're not.
Um,
Yaya was better, much better defensively. And even a better ball carrier. Ainsley's probably
a better ball striker.
Ainsley's probably more slick, or just looks more slick. He's just a bit more relaxed. But no, I don't think you can get to Yaya. No one in the game probably can get to that level. No sentiment really.
I haven't seen somebody able to get to that level. Let's put it that way. In world football, maybe Gravenberch if he puts on a lot of weight and some more.
That's a lot of weight.
And some more. He hits the
and
gym.
A coach, and gets a serious coach.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I got Ashwin.
In terms of previews on at Anfield,
I think we're gonna punch them up.
He's been saying this since yesterday. We were
Not
all
since
at
yesterday.
Emirates
I've been saying
yesterday.
it for a minute.
Yeah.
I know you've been saying that for time, but like I'm just saying
We're gonna
from when I saw him yesterday and I saw him yesterday,
We're
this
gonna
guy
beat
was
them.
in time. We went to go
You know what's
to go eat,
crazy,
and this guy was
guys?
constantly
I'm
talking
normally-
about how.
you know what's crazy is I have been criticized as being the most optimistic fan, but I think I'm the most pessimistic one of all of us for Anfield right now. I'm going to say what I said basically to some other people online is that just Anfield and Liverpool will not perform how they did versus West Ham. They don't do that at Anfield. They don't do that at the top 6 clubs. The space that you guys saw at West Ham will not be what we experienced. They're going to be compact. They're going to press us, and Klopp is going to respect us. So for me, I really do see a loss, but I'm going to save my true feelings about it to the preview because I think injuries and people coming back from internationals are going to be a big thing.
West Ham isn't the thing that made me say what's it called? Liverpool was going to win. I think watching them this season, even though they've killed teams like the Watford 5-0 stuff.
But look at them against City, Chris. Though,
they
like they
always
have
give
been
a chance. Like
they have the best player in the world.
They've been loose guys, but if you look at their top 6 classes, if they don't respect you, they've played poor. But
they
if
should
they
have
respect
lost
you
versus Chelsea.
Yeah, they should have.
Versus City, they should have even lost. Like first half, City dominated them. The first half, City dominated them, and then they made it a transition game, and then Rodri got killed.
But that's the thing. So like if they stay compact, which I have no doubt that they're going to do against Arsenal because they can't, right? Like they can't sit there and push everybody up with our build-up. They just can't. If you look at West Ham, think about it. Like even Rice and Souček, they're not progression of carrying through the middle. They're going to fire it off to Antonio to release outlets, right? Like they bypass that middle third. We don't. And so when you look at it, Liverpool could have afforded to be more transitionally loose. I just don't see it. I really don't. But let's keep that for the preview. Ashvin, we can't give you everything.
I'll just quickly say it's hard to do a prediction on games 2 weeks out because of injuries, as George mentioned, squad availability, who knows what could happen. It's very much a case of we'll get through this break. Speaking of which, before we get on to the next question, we're gonna have another space at some point this international break. I've got a couple of ideas I want to run past the boys offline, off stream about ideas. I do have a couple of interviews lined up. Hopefully, we'll see what happens. But yeah. So let's just let's go on to the next question. I am bald, correct? And as you've been saying in the entire stream, which has been fun. No, you did not see me there, Emirates, because if you did, I would have said hello. And yes, I am not without hair right now. I congratulate you on having eyes. Well done. So just to move on, let Florian Wirtz up, because that's an interesting question. So with Florian, it's with Wirtz, he's had a very good start. For me, if you guys know me off Twitter, you know how my love for Patrick Schick. Even on the channel in the Euros, I've always had a thing for him. So, yeah. So for me, I think the link up that he's had with Schick and with that team, I'm going to be doing a thread on him. He's had a very good start. I think he has a lot of potential. He's very, very young. I think he's still growing into his body.
Profile, though.
Yeah, this is the thing.
Because for me, with him, he had an amazing U17 World Cup. Like he's been on the lips for a lot of Germans for quite a while. And he has had an unbelievable impact in output this season. Like, and you look at him, he's more of a technically fast kind of combination player, and he's got really he's had that Havertz output, but I mean he's not as dependent on being a second striker as Havertz. I think he gets involved more in midfield play and he can turn people a lot more. It's just I think he's just too young right now for me to really talk about his development, and also I haven't scouted him properly, but for me he's a very weird player. He's very unique. Let's put it that way. If I had to really put him with somebody, it'd be very difficult for me to name somebody probably. Like. But he's not, because he's got a big burst. Like he's athletic.
He does. But the thing is, I'll tell you what, because I do watch that team quite a bit because of Schick, because I'm doing a thread on him. And what I do notice is he has that similar ability to Havertz in case of his movement off the ball is very, very good. He has that burst, but he has that ability to drift in and out of space very, very well, and drop in between the lines very well. As he does remind me of Havertz, but the thing is, when you have someone, he's not good in the air. This is what this literally I was going to say. When you have someone like Schick next to you, you need to be looking for drop-offs. You need to be looking for layoffs. You need to be looking for head downs, things like this. And he's very good to like swarming his striker and running past. So you're looking at someone who does have the potential, but again,
he benefits though from having Schick as a striking partner, because he's not physical enough in the challenge to hold off people like Emil. So it becomes very difficult for me to translate that to the Premier League. Like I don't know if he really. I have to watch him a bit more, so I don't want to be definitive. But he is somebody very unique. But in the end, I think I'm going to need to watch a bit more. So maybe I'll do some homework for you. I forget who mentioned it. Poncho, maybe.
I've got no idea on the player, man. Honestly,
he's not Mount. I'll tell you that right now. He's not that profile. He's not the Mount profile. He's much more second striker than 8. Put it that way. He's very much someone who roams around his central striker and makes runs. He could maybe evolve into that in the future. It's very young, and this is why I hold off doing very young player scouting, because it's very hard to see how they're going to emerge. This is why I didn't really want to do a Florian Wirtz thread. I'm going to be doing a Schick thread because I love the guy, but it's very hard to tell at this age, because he could drop deeper. He could even go further on, because his movement off the ball is very, very good. He does strike a ball well as well. So I wouldn't say it's an elite level, but I would say it's good enough. it's
lads,
good
what
enough.
do you
So
make for? So we'll probably stay here for another 5 minutes. So just get your last questions in, lads. But what do you guys make of the sacking Dean Smith and Fark? I think Fark was very quick.
Didn't he win?
yeah,
He did. He won, but I think it was pre-planned. Like, I mean, he's been just horrendous, right? I mean, Norwich.
He always is when he comes back up.
Yeah,
they were out. They were out
But
of
Dean
Fark in the
Smith,
road.
though,
So
on the same token, Dean Smith, it's actually, I find it so hilarious. Just the narrative from what happened in the summer. And this guy wasted 100 million on Grealish
I
on
knew
this
he did,
channel,
though.
by the way. We talked about it. You know what I mean? Like, they put everything through Grealish that was on the left, and they replaced it with right-sided
And they
players.
paid it all up front. They paid it all up front.
But it wasn't even just that. They basically they replaced Grealish with Leon Bailey and Emi Buendia.
With two right wingers, and then you bought a striker up front, 30 mil. You gave Buendia 33 mil up front, and I forgot the exact 3 up front for.
But what I find hilarious is that they have done Willian syndrome. They have bought a right winger to put into 10,
No,
and it's not.
It's worse.
It's bad.
Yeah,
It's bad.
that's what I'm saying. It's
not-
worse.
Worse, because they had all
It's
the
worse.
they had
That
all the
was
money
the
They
idea.
had all the
It's
money up
really
front to take away the progression range from Grealish and actually move it in throughout the team and share it, because you didn't need Grealish to be the second phase controller and the third phase. Like, you could have put someone on the left and added someone in the pivot or in defense or a left back to change the way you build through the team rather than it being Grealish, and he didn't, because you had all the money up front. It wasn't like, oh, we're waiting for money. You had 100 mil up front to spend, and you bought 2 right wingers. Like, it just doesn't make sense.
it's like United,
He's
man.
an
That's
idiot.
what they do,
He's an
man.
idiot. He deserves to be sacked.
Like why?
And you
Why?
didn't need
Like,
Ings. You don't need Ings when you have Watkins. Like,
You
he
know, so
deserves to be
guys, I'll make this question to you. By the way, I don't think people are floating Gerrard as managers to replace some of these teams.
Lampard,
I
I
don't
think.
think
No.
He's going
I don't
to
think Gerrard leaves unless it's for Liverpool. I'll be honest with you.
No, I think Lampard goes to Villa. I think
I do
that's
too, and I was going to say
I think that's a good appointment.
because he's got
I think
Terry
it's a good
there
appointment.
too. You know,
No, Terry's gone. Terry left.
has Terry
Villa.
left?
Terry
Terry
left
left
Villa
last
ages
season.
ago.
That's
And then at the beginning of the season, yeah.
You know how active he is on Twitter. You can't be a manager that active.
Not a
Yeah.
manager. I thought he was going to be part of the.
I still don't think
backroom
that's
staff.
him, man. I don't
That's
think it's
strange.
him. I think that's a
He's
troll.
posting videos.
I
of
still,
him.
bro. I don't know.
It's him. It's him.
But he's acting like a 12-year-old man.
He is.
Like he's like.
Very strange.
What's he
man.
doing? It's very strange.
But
Yeah.
what can you do?
But I do
look,
think
guys,
Lampard's a good appointment, though.
Reese, again, I think we've talked about him on this channel a lot, but one of the better talents that we've produced that lacks the application to ever be serious, in my opinion.
He had a good cameo. He had a good cameo against AZ Alkmaar.
Go on.
He did. I mean, he
This
got
is
a
his
got a
make
last-minute
or break
winner, right?
symptom.
Well, not winner, but assist.
Assist, yeah.
But
Like this is his make or break season, though. This is literally it for him.
it could be. But even if he does really well in that league, I mean, at the end of the day, he'll have 2 years left on his contract, and he'll be 22. Can someone quote me?
Yeah, he will.
22 sounds right.
He'll be 22 next season.
Okay. And so when he's going to, I would probably get him on loan if he's willing to stay. But again, he's just somebody that I don't think is ever going to be serious enough about football to explode to the way that he could, because that boy is, it is special, but you know, his application is just not it, unfortunately.
Yeah, he was better than Sancho in academy, but when they got up, him, Sancho, Cho, they've all been rated mad high. Just probably won't live up to the potential. But he's very talented with like the ball striking, the dribbling, the technique in tight spaces, the combination play, the passing.
It's annoying because he's got it all, mate. Like, if I'm really being honest with you, in terms of that left winger position, he's got it all, especially for how we use him. But he's just not serious enough, in my opinion. But look, I think
could use a left winger as well. We really could.
We could. It's just, I don't know. I think this squad is going to move past him and his type, so that's unfortunately going to be the case with him. But look, guys, we're basically approaching an hour and a half. Make sure that you comment what you'd like us to go over during this international break. Like Curran said, we're going to have some more content out for you. We're definitely going to do those spaces because you guys loved those spaces. So make sure maybe you can comment some topics that you want us to really touch on. I know last space was really a top 4 heavy. Maybe we'll do a title challenge segment, and we'll talk really about the title challengers for Chris to put us
Don't do
up in
it.
there.
Don't do
I
it.
need to talk
Don't do
about.
it.
I need to talk about that. You know.
Don't do it. Don't do it.
And so maybe we'll do a little title challenger space in a sense. But yeah, make sure that you guys definitely drop a like, drop a comment as well about what you want us to talk about in those spaces. We'll announce them a little bit in advance for you guys to come on. And remember, we'll post a StreamYard link for you guys to get a chance to pop on. I know there were some people requesting today. Don't worry, we got a space lined up, so you'll definitely have your chance to have your say. But yeah, make sure that you like, comment, subscribe, click that bell for notifications so you know when we upload, and make sure that you follow BoP Footy for Twitter, because you know we're
the bell. The man with the bell.
Yeah.
And everything. Jeez.
He remembers
make sure you hit that ding, you know, so that you know when we upload. But look, guys, like in all honesty, I just wanted to say, like it is. We make fun of this phrase, but it is mad humbling. The amount of just praise that we've gotten offline. You know, I think the boys had a lot of humbling experiences about you guys reaching people from Holland.
We met people. We met people, and I said it yesterday before I went to the game. If I'm at a game, just come and say hi. It's not that big a deal. I'm more than happy to say hi. Not to CK because he doesn't like people.
No,
like,
I said I was some guy in the armory. I forgot he didn't tell me his YouTube name.
No, we didn't know who he was, but he shouted like, "Oh, yo, CK," and I was like, "What the hell?"
At first, I was like, no one in real life calls me CK, but yeah, whoever you are, kudos to you. And if you wanna talk to me, I'll call Karen because Karen likes to talk. But yeah, thanks for 700 subs. I'll say it again. Thanks for 300 follows on the
Twitter at BoP.
On the Twitter,
yeah, man, it's been awesome. Look, the only thing I want to say is, like, in the last month, we've really taken a step forward in our growth, and like the lads here, like, we just appreciate it. We're hoping by Christmas we can, push to 1K. Essentially, it's maybe a little bit of a lofty goal in these last couple months, but look, if you like what we're putting out and you like what we're talking about, make sure that you guys subscribe, share it to your friends, because that's the only way that we can grow and keep giving this to you. So we also saw Yo-Yo's comment about kind of improving the channel, which we'll work on some visuals, because I think that was a really good comment. We'll definitely work on putting those up on some of the reviews. But yeah, guys, again, like, comment, subscribe, hit that bell to know when we're going to upload again, and follow us at BoP Footy on Twitter. And you can follow all the boys here on our handles, normal, GeorgeV_AFC. Curran?
At Curran BoP, and go on CK.
Pure CKK at BoP Footy and Ball of a Passion on TikTok.
There you go, boy.
Awesome. And Z, mate?
Yeah, Private Arsenal _Z. And by the way, before we sign out, I just want to give a shout out to some people that have made this a thing called BoP Twitter, because we are a movement now. We are a movement. So if you guys want to make like tweets with BoP Twitter, please do, because you are only
do hashtag BoP.
Yeah, hashtag BoP.
Hashtag BoP. Jeez.
Awesome. And just to give Mush his request, you'll hear the banging outro very soon. But again, guys, seriously, thank you so much for all the support, and we look forward to taking it up the next level, guys. So we're motivated. We hear you guys. We love the engagement that's been going on recently. So thanks so much, guys. And make sure you comment some suggestions for us to talk about on the space, because I definitely want to expand a little bit of our commentary on some of the other teams. So we'll definitely do a title challenge kind of segment. But anything else that you guys want to talk about, transfers, our motivations to football, whatever you want, make sure you comment. Thanks so much, guys, and we'll catch you on the break on the next one.
Peace. Arsenal's going to win the league.